What's all this about? Crazy stuff, isn't it? The bottom's just fallen out. Welcome to It's an Arsenal Thing. I'm your host, Tom, and with me in the gun room, I've got the Podcateers. I've got Jay. How are you, Jay?
Well, good, thanks. So good.
What can you say about it, Jay? There's very few words you can use to sum up this situation, is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very disappointing.
Lauren, how are you?
I've been better, but it's okay.
Loving
We're staying
that
strong.
shirt.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was just saying there, it was packed away because it brought a bit of bad luck during the season, but now it's fine. It doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah,
what else can go wrong?
It's bomb-proof, isn't it? Now it doesn't really matter.
Absolutely.
Well, we're waiting for a third one. We're waiting for Tom. He hasn't been on for a while. He's moved back to Cyprus, and there's no Paul Mack. He's on a jolly, an Everton mission, I think, probably to assassinate Big Sam or something. So our substitutes here make complete sense when we do get one in. It's been an awful week for the Arsenal. I mean, apart from the girls, I suppose, Mikel Arteta's whole season has entirely collapsed. We'll pick up on that in a minute, but we'll cover the girls' games in the WSL against Everton and Chelsea, and obviously that awful performance against Forest. They're probably the best team, Jay, aren't they, in that bottom section there? I've always thought that if anyone was going to survive, it would be them because they've got a really good manager.
Yeah, they got a great manager. Yeah, Cooper's he's done a great job as far as being the best team down there. They've got a great togetherness, especially at home, and the atmosphere and the fans make it really a really tough place to go. But it was so bad. it was a rotten performance, and I mean, I still, even taking into consideration the fans and the manager who's done a good job, we should still be going to Forest and winning. There's absolutely no doubt.
What a cracking atmosphere, though, wasn't it? I mean, that's one. I don't know whether my volume was slightly turned up or it was as mad as it sounded. Did you go, Jay?
Yeah. I managed to get a ticket pretty late on last week, and I didn't think I said last week I wasn't confident about getting a result.
4-0.
I didn't think it would be as bad as that. It was just toothless. It was really frustrating, and it annoyed me on many levels. The manager did, the players did. It was a real throwback to I thought Denilson was playing for us at one point, centre midfield.
I'll tell you what it reminded me of, that dismal display in Bacau. That was horrible as well. But this was worse.
We at least got a shot on target there. We didn't even have a shot on target against Forest, and it was just sideways back. And it was awful. It was really terrible, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, Forest have done well. They've stayed up, and it'll be key for them next season to see if they can beat that sort of second season issue that a lot of teams have.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do okay. Well, let's have some news before we kick off. It's Manchester City are going for the treble, fraud, extortion and money laundering. We thought we'd throw that in. That's mine and Dave's best joke. Let's get on to Katie McCabe. She's been voted by supporters Goal of the Month for April. 63% of the vote. Martin Odegaard's volley at West Ham came second, and Granit Xhaka's header against Leeds United third. McCabe's big moment, Lauren, can you cast your mind back? 74th minute in the game against Man City at Meadow Park, having trailed 1-0 at the break. Freedom Manham equalised before she played a short corner to the Republic of Ireland captain. She's some player, isn't she?
I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to be biased here, but I do love her so much. And I think she's been a really important player this season as well. She's one of those players who, regardless of injuries, regardless of what else is going on, you can always count on her to come out. And, she's been called up to captain the side now as well with Williamson and Kim Little out with season-ending injuries. And she's every time she's on that pitch, she shows exactly what you want a captain to show. It's that grit and determination, and she's never scared. She's never scared of a challenge. And, you know, that was the goal that basically secured us. It, as long as nothing terrible happens now on Saturday, and, you know, City, we don't lose, and
Well, it
City
is Arsenal.
don't end up
You
scoring.
never know,
I
do you?
know, but it would have to be something pretty drastic to prevent us getting European football now, and that's kind of the goal that secured it for us. So I think she deserved it, absolutely. And what a goal it was.
It was. Martin Odegaard has scooped his first Player of the Month award this season, as voted for by April's supporters, or the supporters in April. Let's do it that way round. Impressive displays. 68% of the vote. Gabriel Martinelli comes second, Ben White third. Gabriel Martinelli, Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka have all been nominated for Premier League's Young Player of the Season award. And 43 years ago today, Liam Chippy Brady played his last game in an Arsenal shirt in an away defeat at Middlesbrough. You don't want to go up there. Middlesbrough, I've been there once, never again. It's a bit like Luton, wouldn't go back there again. So very good memories of Liam Brady, because I'm old enough. Well, let's press on. Before we start properly, before we go any further, the podcast is brought to you by manscaped.com and the Performance Package 4.0 for all the below and above the waist grooming needs, and also zenithcoins.com for the best football collectibles in a coin format. We'll show you some of that later on. We'll give you discount codes of 20 and 15% respectively. It's one last chance to pick up the clock end coin, which is running out fast. I looked just before we came on. I think it was down to 40. Let's just bring it over, give it a little flash. Can we see that? Yeah, it's a lovely coin. If you haven't got that in your collection, you should have. Right, so first up, it's the WSL against Everton, the first of two catch-ups, with Arsenal pushing for a Champions League slot. Everton, first, let's have a look at the team that we put out, Lauren. Have you got it in front of you?
I do indeed. So it's Zinsberger.
Don't let me pronounce any of them.
Don't worry, I got you. Zinsberger in goal. We're sticking with that back three formation. I think it's probably the most solid given the injuries and the lack of experience. So is Wooten Moy, Beattie and Raffaele. Katie McCabe was playing on the left wing. We had Maritz on the right wing. I suppose on the right wing back. Leah Valti started the game in midfield with Frida Manum. Caitlin Ford was back. She was playing on the left wing with Pelova on the right, and Blackstenius was up front in that game.
Well, they gave us something to talk about, Lauren, didn't they? Everton were really poor in possession. I mean, I couldn't believe how poor they were. And the first goal after 29 minutes seemed to be the reluctance for them to actually get the ball out of their own half. I mean, that's how it came. They could have punted the ball upfield or done something with it. They got themselves into all sorts of bother. And from the throw-in, it was picked off on the right, wasn't it, by a sort of interchange of players. Full checked. She was unmarked inside the box. What a lovely strike that was. We just wax lyrical about Ford and McCabe, I think. Shall we?
Yes, please, can we? It was a great finish. It was a really, really great finish. It was a tough finich as well. She kind of swung across her body, and it was one of those ones that you either connect with it and it's a clean shot, or, you know, it kind of could have gone either way there. But she finished it. The most important thing was she finished it, hit it off the post, and yeah, we'll take it. Any goal's a goal, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 33 minutes. Arsenal kept up the pressure by pressing tight and getting another mistake out the home side. Katie McCabe thrashed the ball home from distance. What a strike that was. 39 minutes, McCabe puts in an excellent ball from the left. Blackstenius heads down to draw a save, and Ford heads in from close range. It's the Ford and McCabe show.
Absolutely. That's what it felt like.
You have to hand it to Ford. Out with an injury sustained in April, she looked as sharp as a knife. She was really up for it and focused.
Absolutely. She looked as fresh as anything. You wouldn't have known she was out with an injury. She looked really, really like she was ready to go. And look, like I said earlier before we came on, the World Cup's coming up now as well. That's something that we have to think about, and the amount of injuries as well that is happening. Any player that's fit and that's able to go is, at this stage of the season, probably has their mind on that, and they're thinking, okay, let's put on a good display. And obviously Australia are hosting, so it's probably a big one for her to be involved in. And yeah, I can only imagine that's where she's at the moment. And look, we'll take it if that's what gets us over the line for the next game. And
well, she looked like she just started the season. That's the thing.
Crazy. I mean, there was such a difference. Yeah.
Fresh.
Yeah,
and it's unusual
absolutely.
to have any players like that at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
Number 4 was Wubben Moy, a first goal in a year. I was really pleased for her. She's been epic for us, but their defence was all over the place, and Wubben Moy managed to get a free header completely on the post. What about this tackle then, Lauren? Beaver Jones on Valti in the opening period of the second half. She got a yellow, and then it was reversed to a red. It was horrible, wasn't it? I thought she got a snapped ankle or something.
It was awful. It was really, really bad injury, and I think I didn't watch the game. I saw the reaction online, and from what I could see on Twitter, basically it was another, you know, ACL season, and obviously season time's over, but a long-term injury. And I was thinking, like, we just don't get a break here, you know. It was a nasty injury. It was a very dangerous injury. And when we think about tackle, excuse me, it was a very dangerous tackle. And when we think of the injuries that we've sustained through the season, most of them have been through no fault of another player. They've just been pure flukes. So when a player comes in, and, you know, I understand she's a young player, she's got an awful lot of backlash for this tackle. However, regardless of age, regardless of anything, you have to act professionally, and you can't just lunge into a challenge. Obviously, you're desperate. Your team's 4-0 down at home. For me, though, it was unexcusable, and I think the red card was fully deserved.
Yeah, well, let's just go through those injuries. Mead, Miedema, Little, Hurting, Catley, Ford, Valti, Williamson, and Weinreiter. I'm going to say that like that because I can't say it any other way. Everton were really poor, hesitant, losing possession all over the place in dangerous areas, but hats off to Arsenal. They did keep focus with a determined performance. This game was virtually won in the second half. Is there any point in coming out for the second half, Lauren? Because at the moment we're scoring like 4 in the first half and then we don't get anything else, but that's typical of a second half revival, isn't it, for most teams?
For sure. You know, I think at this stage, like I said, it's just get the job done in the first half, and then, you know, take it easy in the second half. And this is a game where I would have loved it to just been finished. You know, let's call it off at half time. They're not going to come back into it.
I think Everton were the same, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they did manage to get a goal back, but that was, yeah, they did manage to get a goal back in the dying minutes of the game. I think that was, you know, a mixture of tiredness from the players, another injury, another player being taken off in front of them. It's a game I would have been happy to see finished,
though. It all got a bit physical at one stage. The girls were getting involved and getting like the guys. I thought we had the female Xhaka.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you would get that because we've had so many injuries. Right, who's the Zenith Coins player of the match, Lauren? You can pick one of 3, I suppose. Palova was good, McCabe stood out, and Ford. Who's your pick?
For me, it was Ford. I think, like you said, she looked so sharp. She looked, sometimes we've lacked a threat in front of goal, and she looks very clinical. So yeah, for me, it was her. But like you said, great performance from the front 3. They made it look so easy. Obviously, Everton were easy to pick apart.
We're lucky to have a front 3.
I know. It's a bit of a makeshift one, but we'll take it. And yeah, no, it was very, very impressive display. And if only we had finished that game. You know, at this stage, it's almost a game injury-free is as important as 3 points, really. So you have to look at the flip side and say, obviously, we got through it. But is this another player who's going to miss the World Cup because of injuries? Hopefully not. You know, she's captain of Switzerland. We really don't want to see that happen. So as long as she's back before that, I think.
Well, apparently the last thing I heard was it's looking good for the World Cup. So that's a relief. Right, let's do the match stats. And then Podders, we've got that very argumentative, disappointing, all sorts of emotions mixed into it Forest game. First, Everton first, 4 shots, 20 for Arsenal, 1 shot on target for them, says it all, doesn't it? 12 for Arsenal, 46% possession, 54% for us, 447 passes for them, 508 for us, 80% pass accuracy for them, surprisingly enough, and 90% for us. Right, it's not going to be easy to listen to, Podders. So if you want to go and grab, I don't know, pepperami out of the fridge and pour yourself a cold beer, do that. My observations before the game: Forest manager Steve Cooper, he looks like he's been cutting raw onions, doesn't he? He's like this. It's like that all the time. And I also thought that Gibbs White would be, if you're old enough to remember this, he would have been a perfect member of a Commodore's tribute band. If you don't know who that is, ask your dad. On to the match, guys. As we said, it was on from the Brighton performance, you didn't expect another one of those, but worse. I mean, it was horrible. It's the worst match I've seen all season, and it was compounded really by the fact that it's just all fallen away in half a dozen games, Jay.
Oh, it was tragic. You know, before the game, I suppose in the build-up, it became apparent that Leverkusen have come in for Xhaka, right? And there it was, you know.
Do you think he just got bogged down with that his agent's sort of talking to him about a move? Is that why?
No,
Because
I think
I particularly noticed he wasn't evident. I didn't even hear him in the commentary. I had to look for him several times.
Well, he wasn't. He certainly wasn't to blame for that.
Oh no, absolutely not.
It was. I think the starting lineup was all wrong.
We'll get to that in a minute.
I thought Mikel was too slow to change anything. I mean, I said earlier I had my worries about this game, but it was so poor, and it was really, really annoying, really frustrating. Didn't create anything. I mean, as far as highlights go from our point of view, and Forest's point of view, to be honest, there were very few. There weren't many. We didn't have any chances on goal. I mean, I think that was that one shot that was flashed wide in the second half, early in the second half, but that wasn't even close. Forest's goal was Gabriel deflecting it onto Awoniyi's foot. You know, it was just a game that Forest were more than happy just to sit back.
Well, they did that well. They absolutely, I called them a fire blanket. They just suffocated the life out of us.
But we didn't pose them any real threat. There was no passing behind. You know, we practically ignored Trossard on the left.
Yeah.
Saka was getting super frustrated, but you know, I mean, I love the guy, and I know we all do, but he did nothing. You know, we badly missed Ben White on the overlap, but Thomas Partey was there, and it was a really, really poor decision to start him there. Badly missed Ben White going on the outside. Ødegaard.
Why did we play down the right-hand channel all match? It was so annoying. As you say, it was backwards, sideways, all that sort of stuff, and then down the right.
I think what Mikel was hoping for was that Partey was going to drift into the midfield like Zinchenko does. But the problem with that is you have to have. He hasn't played there all season, first and foremost, and he hasn't played there for years. And I don't think he's ever really played that role where he's coming in from the right-hand side of the defence and stepping into the middle. I'm not sure he's I don't know whether he's got the football IQ to do that, like Zinchenko has, where he can quickly adapt his position, because he didn't move into, well, when he did move into midfield, he was very ineffective. Like I say, I was really disappointed that Trossard was ignored. You know, he didn't have anything, didn't get the ball at all. And it was easy for, you know, you've got Joe Worrell playing, you know, centre back for Forest, who he's full of application and he's physical, but you know, Gabriel Jesus should be getting the better of him, and Joe Worrell just marked him out of the game, and it was really disappointing. Played into Forest's hands. I mean, I'd be shocked if Mikel didn't say to them, part of his pre-match team talk wasn't, these guys are going to sit back and look to hit us on the counter. But they didn't really, you know, after their goal, they didn't really create anything else. They didn't need to, because I think they were fully confident that we just didn't have anything. And it was a real, like I say, a real throwback to a lot of the Wenger years towards the end, where there was no plan B. You know, the substitutions were far too late from Mikel, and we didn't have any change. You know, we didn't have any. It was like for like. You know, Tierney came on and did all right, got in behind a couple of times towards the end. But I mean, as far as we were watching it, and it was just sideways back, and it was just. You can
so bad. I thought El Neni was playing.
You can have all that possession, and it kind of masks your shortcomings, because you know stats are so prevalent these days, aren't they? And in post-match and in game. They're always popping up on the screen or at the end of the game,
Very
or
misleading.
Newspapers. And it was really, really toothless stuff. And I think a lot of Mikel's business in the summer has been made easy for him by not just Saturday, but a lot of these recent games. You know, certain areas of the pitch. He's quite happy to let Xhaka go, even though he's been one of the better players this season, and potentially quite happy to let Thomas Partey go because they've massively dropped off. So, look, there weren't many highlights, were there? It was just so disappointing.
Lowlights.
Yeah, there were just. It was incredibly disappointing, and I mean, my phone is still not going right now, but I'm still getting grief now from my friends. You know, but ultimately, Forest had everything to play for, and we didn't. And that's what worried me last week. We didn't have it. You know, the belief was gone.
Yeah,
and you know, I mean, it's just. In the space of a month or 6 weeks, the difference and the drop off in this team, it's been a brilliant season, don't get me wrong. You know, it's been full of real highlights, but this last sort of 100 meters of the race is we've just fell at every hurdle, haven't we? And it's been really worrying, really disappointing. And I hope it's lit a fire in Mikel's stomach to really go out there and sign the players we need, because I mean, I don't know what you guys think, and I don't know if we'll get onto it later, but I do. The running has got me seriously questioning the mentality of a lot of these players, and have they got the balls? They've got the ability. There's absolutely no doubt in that. Look, we all know that. We've seen it. We've beaten, apart from City, we've beaten every team, and we've beaten everyone around us. And we've gone away from home, and we've put in performances, and we've really turned teams inside and out. But when it's mattered, we've crumbled, and it's horrible to say. It's horrible to, you know, it's been really awful to see it and witness it. I mean, we've got to take all the abuse for it from all the you know rival supporters, I suppose. But I think there is some kind of block, or I might be overreacting, but it's just something that.
No, I don't think you are, actually. I think it's going to be one of those podcasts where we dig over the bones of it, and it gets. I mean, this podcast is a very positive podcast. If you've listened to it before, you will know that. But I think it's important to question some of the things that have been going on, especially that. I do believe it's mentality, Jay. I do back you up on that. You should be able to, when you can win at a ground like St James's after a few dodgy sort of results, you should be pushing forward. That should give you the impetus to go forward, not go backwards, and not start losing to teams as good as Brighton were. And this re-energized, focused Forest side as well. God, that was a mouthful. But sorry, Jay. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you. And this is going to get worse, Podders.
And I think I won't carry on, because it's just I'll try and put a positive spin on it. You know, from my point of view, we have to go and get the big names. We can't be beaten to like Declan Rice by Chelsea or by a Liverpool. We have to go and get them. We have to go and get the Caicedos. We have to go and get these big targets, because I think the players that are going to be there next season need these big names to get over the line. You know, that we can't. I think we need these big signings. We need these big reputations to come in, and because I think that's what we're missing. We're missing these, you know, these players that will just get us over that line. I'm not putting it on anyone. I'm not pinpointing anybody in particular. I just think collectively we've crumbled, and you know, we'll learn from it, obviously, and we'll come back stronger, absolutely no doubt. But it was Forest that I didn't expect it to be as bad as it was against Forest. I thought it was going to be. I
don't think anyone expected it.
Not that bad. And then obviously you had the Brighton game, and then the last 5 or 6 games, with the odd exception, and it is slightly worrying. But then,
Well, they did a number on us as they doubled and trebled up on us. And it was just like hitting the wall all the time. And as you say, we were kind of going down one side. We were a bit lopsided going down the right side. Trossard must have been bored out of his mind, or must have been looking at the bench going, what am I on here for? Because he never got a pass. And when he did, he was surrounded. So it's really frustrating for a player as good as Trossard that they didn't actually use him. And I was wondering, if it had been Martinelli, would they have blanked him as much? Is there something going on behind the scenes or whatever?
Kivior was down the left side, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was. There was a lot of changes from the Brighton game, and that's where Mikel got it wrong. We obviously, it was a bad result, but in hindsight, I don't think. Well, it's going to take a few more games for Kivior to become established if he's going to be that left-sided defender when Zinchenko's out, because he didn't look comfortable there at all. And it just meant that, I mean, there were so many changes. You go back to a few weeks ago, the team that was playing against, I don't know, when we had Zinchenko playing and Ben White at right back, and even maybe Rob Holding at centre half and Gabriel, there was just a lot of changes. We looked disjointed. There wasn't, I mean, we were passing the ball okay, but it was all safe passing in safe areas and backwards. And
there was no flamboyant sort of moves, were there? There was nothing.
Odegaard, he was full of endeavour. He was trying. You could see he was picking the ball up and he was getting himself out of tight little situations like he does really well, but he was going from side to side. And, and this is what I was screaming out for Jesus or Trossard, just to maybe try and run in behind so Odegaard could pick that ball, try and find that space in behind the defence. And yeah, it was tight, but it just, nothing was happening. And God, it was infuriating. It really was. But
let's cover that team, Jay, because that's a real head scratcher. And then we'll come to you, Lauren. I mean, 4-3-3. And when I saw this team sheet, I nearly choked. I was like, what the hell is going on here? So we got Ramsdale. We expected him. Kiwior on the left-hand side. We didn't expect that. Gabriel, Ben White, who's played on the right all season, comes into the centre-back role again. And then Thomas Partey, who's been off form and everything else, goes on the right-hand side. That was a real head-scratcher. Granit Xhaka, Jorginho, Martin Odegaard. Fair enough. You've got experience there and creative quality. Then you've got Trossard, Gabriel Jesus, and the newly signed, we haven't mentioned that yet, but we will do, till 2027, Bukayo Saka. Thank God you signed. We've just bought my son one of these shirts and it's got Saka on the back. So if you hadn't have signed, it would have been a real to-do. Lauren, what did you make of that side? It was like, like you pick names out for the Grand National in that sort of thing. It just didn't work, did it? It didn't look right, and it sucked.
It was bizarre. I mean, I think once Saliba got injured, everyone kind of said, oh, we can't play holding centre-back. We need to play Thomas Partey right back. We need to do this, that, the other. But essentially, that's never going to work. If you start shifting the whole back four, we're a team that play out from the back, and it's really, really important that we have a solid foundation there at the back to allow. I mean, we've noticed that when Saliba's been gone, the play just has not looked as smooth as it has when he was in the team. So the whole idea of changing the complete back four, look, I get it. Let's try something. I kind of understand where Mikel was coming from. I know that the league wasn't lost at this point, but we didn't have much to.
I thought he'd been out on the piss the night before.
Really?
I thought he'd been out on the piss the night before. He couldn't really see the team sheet, and he just put anyone in.
I suppose my biggest shock was Tierney not starting. Absolutely. That was the one that I really couldn't get my head around. And I mean, look, okay, Ben White in at centre back. I was pretty happy to see him play there because I think right back is a position that we're going to have to strengthen. I like Tomiyasu, but I think it's been 2 seasons now where he's gone missing at crucial times due to injury. Not great. We've seen that Ben White's gotten, he got absolutely roasted. Let's be real, in the last game at right back. He needs more support there. We need someone else who can come into that role. And then we have a great player who can play either, right back or right centre back if Saliba's injured, if our first choice right back is injured, with Ben White there. I was happy to see that. Partey at right back, again, we just don't have the choices there at the moment. A weird choice, again, like a weird choice. I think I would have just played Tierney, Gabriel. I probably would have just gone back to Holding, to be honest. Is he that bad? Now that we've seen what's gone on without him, is Holding that bad? And then Ben White at right back. But at the same time, I feel like the game was lost before, the league was lost before this game. I think it was just a matter of Arteta trying things out and seeing what worked, and this absolutely didn't work. So at least we know that now. I hope we never see this again.
Yeah, I don't ever want to watch this again. I mean, that was brutal. I mean, I was constantly looking at my phone to see what the time was, and what am I doing next? Because I didn't want to be there watching that in particular. As I said, after the fabulous performance at Newcastle, you expected a lot more. Let's look at the reasons for that drop-off. I mean, I was just angry. It was a terrible way to surrender the title, and we were in with a shout of it. I know everyone's going to say, well, at the beginning of the season, top four would have done us. Yeah, but we achieved that. And then if you're gonna do more, you don't say, oh no, I can't, because top four was my ambition. And it's really frustrating. And what made it even worse was there was no spirit, no one player that showed any balls. And then you looked at the City bench when they played, and it looked like they were taking the piss. They had 490 million pounds worth of talent on there. Edison, Diaz, Stones, Gundogan, Haarland, Grealish, Rodrigo, De Bruyne, Bernardo. I mean, was he taking the piss? And that made me even more annoyed. It shows the realistic gulf between the sides. 15 points dropped in 8 games, 9 points from 24 that were begging. Was it motivation, Jay? Was it lack of belief? Was it, or just the depth of the squad? Because we just need some answers. Because
I think, I'll be honest, I think Mikel has lost his head recently. I think he's lost. He's ultimately disappointed, like everybody is, and it's first and foremost, it's perfectly all right to acknowledge that recently it hasn't been good enough, but also this season it's been bloody brilliant. You know, you are allowed to say that it's been shit, because it has. You know, but it's worse. It feels worse because we had a real chance of winning the league. Unexpectedly win the league,
and who knows when that will come around again.
Exactly, but well, it'll be next year, because we're still going to be in the race next year.
Absolutely.
Positivity, that's what you get.
The recent form and the drop off, I think Mikel's made a lot of mistakes, and I think it is super important to still remember that this is his first title race as a manager, and you know, we will win trophies, more trophies with Arteta. Whether it's the league, I don't know. I certainly hope so, obviously, but he's made some key mistakes. You talk about, obviously the squads aren't the same in relation to quality, you know, to come off the bench, but we still have quality on the bench, and I think this is where Mikel's made a lot of mistakes. He should have adapted a lot quicker on Saturday. We had a midfield that, and I'm not blaming it. If I name anyone, I'm certainly not blaming them, but we could have gone 3 at the back on Saturday, and because Forest weren't hit, they were trying to hit us on the counter, but they were just quite happy just to basically give us the ball. So we could have gone to 3 and put Smith Rowe on. I mean, look, he needs minutes and he hasn't had any of them, but if we're chasing a game, we're chasing a result, obviously we're trying to stay in the title race. I know it's gone. We all knew it was gone, but he was an option. I agree with Lauren. Tierney should have come on a lot sooner. He can play in a 3, and he gives you a lot more pace. And if you're going to stay with a 4, he can go on the outside. Playing with Ødegaard, Jorginho, and Xhaka, defensively, it's going to be slow. From a dynamism point of view, it's going to be slow. Move Partey back into the middle. You don't need pace at the back because Awoniyi as a striker isn't quick. He's more of a target man. And I just thought Mikel didn't change anything, and he just persisted. And
when he did, Jay, it was weird, wasn't it? Because he brought Vieira on, who's had a bit of an up and down
that was midway through the second half. When they came out for the second half, it was like, I mean, come on, you need to be more proactive here. You know, that was shocking. You know, we didn't have a single chance on goal that I can remember anyway. And I think that's been a problem recently with Mikel, that he's been too slow to react. Now you know, think maybe I'm not just putting that on his shoulders as well, because his coaching staff need to be on him, don't they? They need to be advising him. They need to be saying, you know, if so and so is not working, this is the alternative. This is plan B. That's another problem. We haven't got plan B. If plan A doesn't work, what's plan B? Putting Nketiah on. He's not going to do much. Vieira's not going to do much. You know, obviously you miss Martinelli because of his direct dribbling, and but then again, if he was on that left and we had Kivior at left back, would we have found him? You know, but look, it's been disappointing, and obviously you go onto social media and you know, people they come out with absolute whoppers saying Arteta needs to go, and they forget about you know, the majority of this season, and I think it's important, especially after the final whistle against Wolves, whatever happens in that game, let's not forget just how good we were. Let's not forget about the results and the highlights, the real highlights that we've had this season, and the progress. You know, we're in the Champions League, and we're going to get better, and we're going to be, you know, fingers crossed, where we are, you know, still in the title race this time next season, you know, with 2 games to go, you know, this time next year.
Well, this is a problem for me, because I kind of expected naively that it would go down to the wire, and then Pep is swanning out with his Man City side, hasn't got to do anything against Chelsea, you know, with Lampard's.
We've made it easy for him, haven't we?
Oh yeah, and that's the one that annoys me.
They haven't really, you know, don't get me wrong, their form has been great. You know, you can't argue with their form, and they've had the Champions League, and they've got the squad and all of that. But we've gave it to them to a certain extent. We haven't really had to push them, other than, you know, before our breakdown, really. You know, we've just given it to them, and that's the disappointing side, isn't it? Because we know we're better than this. We know we're better than drawing with Southampton. You know, we're better than drawing with West Ham. You know, and we know we're definitely better than pissing Forest.
Well, let's just deal with that goal. 19 minutes. Odegaard untypically made a massive mistake. Wayward pass to Gibbs White, who sprinted through the middle of the pitch. Oh, what was that? That sounded interesting. I don't know, it's a bit of feedback or something. And then Owaniyi inside, I hope I got that right, went through, and it clattered off. It was an unlucky rebound, wasn't it? Clattered off Gabriel's leg. And he must have thought that he defended that ball and got that away, because he was so annoyed after it kind of clattered in. And Ramsdale wasn't too chuffed as well. We couldn't cope after that, I don't think. The stats are going to be really interesting on this one, because we were so poor, and yet the stats don't really back that up. We didn't look like we were going to score unless it was from a free kick or from a corner. But they had that area sewn up as well. Now, Lauren, the Jesus penalty. Dermot Gallagher believes Jesus should have been awarded a penalty against Joe Worrell. What did you think of that? Did you see it? I didn't see to. I've watched it a couple of times, and I can't really be sure. I'll take it, but I couldn't be sure.
I wasn't really convinced of it, to be honest, and it wasn't really. Yeah, no, I think it was just one of those games we needed anything we could get, and I mean, fair enough as well. But I think it was probably the right decision.
Do you think over the last few games, Jesus has kind of been, not that I'm criticising anyone, I'm still behind the team, still in with the process and Mikel and all that sort of thing, but we need to get to it. Jesus, he's always looking for stuff at the moment. He's very vociferous in sort of holding his hands up, pointing out this, pointing out that, and going down for a few times in the box. Do you think that's kind of swayed the judgment, or is Jesus again, he's gone down?
To be honest, I haven't noticed it recently that much. I think, has he been doing it more than usual?
I thought so, yeah.
Yeah.
He normally stays on his feet. Jay's disagreeing, shaking his head. Might be my glasses. Perhaps I'll have to wind it. But
I feel like he's quite an animated player anyway, though. You know, I think he's quite animated when anything happens, whether it's he misses or he's very animated, and you kind of see it in all of his, you know, his arms are always going as well. His whole body kind of reacts to everything. I did see something quite interesting though, and it was the idea of playing Jesus as a 10, because he's not really a great finisher. He's not really a striker. And I kind of like that idea, because he's not a big target man. He's not that big target man that we need, who can be, I mean, are we going to get a striker who's compete with Haarland? No, let's be real. But I think we could probably get someone who's a bit more clinical than Jesus and then Nketiah, who are both good players in their own right. But to be very, very serious, you need to be very, very, very clinical, and you need to get goals when you have the opportunities. And yeah, sorry, that's got a long way around your question. I haven't noticed that he's been looking for things more than often, but I do feel like there is a bit of an element of frustration watching him at the moment, because I just feel like
I'm not blaming him, obviously, because
yeah.
he's been fantastic. You know, we got deprived of him through injury. But the other thing that I kind of think, Jay, is that we've got up front, we've got similar players, haven't we, who go wide and like to cut in. So you've got Martinelli, you've got Jesus, you've got Trossard, you've got Saka. We need something radically different. We need someone who can not only hold the ball up, but can poke in the ugly goal as well.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Haarland, and he's completely sort of rewritten the textbook on being a striker. You know, so now everybody thinks they need to go and get Haarland. You know, like City they've won the majority of their Premier Leagues with Aguero up front, who is small and nippy and a brilliant finisher. You know, and Jesus was part of that squad, and he played a lot of the time on the right or from a wide position. I think it's interesting that we haven't seen that. We haven't seen Jesus wide at all, you know, and maybe next season, I think we might see Jesus in a wide position, because fingers crossed we do get somebody else, because I think we're all, what's the best way to say it? I think a lot of us are, maybe we've accepted the fact that Jesus isn't going to be that one who's going to score 25 goals a season. I don't think he's got it in him. I think he misses too many, but his approach play as a player, he's absolutely superb, and he's technically really good. I like the fact that he's got a bit of gamesmanship about him. I said that against Newcastle, especially. He was tangling a bit, but he was going down in the right positions, and he was winning free kicks, and he's part of the game now, you know. And we haven't had players like that. And he's a winner, but as far as a striker who's going to score the goals, he's not clinical enough, or he hasn't shown us yet that he is clinical enough. And I hope that we do go out and get someone, whoever that is. I don't know. Obviously, that's what everybody's searching for, aren't they? They're all searching for a 30-goal a season striker.
We'll do some transfers a little bit later up.
I think Jesus needs to be an option from the left or the right, because I think he could have deputised for Saka, right? I think Saka's looked really, really sort of tired, and he's still taking the fouls, and he looks a really frustrated figure on Saturday. And I think maybe Jesus could be used on the right hand side, but. I mean, fingers crossed we do get a striker, because I think it definitely needs looking at, doesn't it? When maybe, I don't know, Balogun can come back and play, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's we'll touch into that. There was a fairly damning quote on Arsenal's ineffectiveness in attack. It came from Mikel Arteta. We could have been here 3 hours and still not scored. We didn't have enough to do that, so we have to face it. It's my responsibility, and I have to take that, he added, which is fine, which is fair enough, but it doesn't make up for the fact that we got absolutely mauled and booted around the pitch. Can
I just say, for the second season going against Forest, lost 1-0, didn't create any chances in that bloody away end. Listening to the fans, oh god, I've got to get out of here as quick as possible.
Gloomy
third
trip
time
home
lucky. They're staying up, so you have to face them next season. Third time lucky.
While we're on the post-mortem, Fabio Vieira instead of Smith Rowe coming off the bench, I mean, that for me, you didn't start Tierney. You went with this patched up sort of back four that didn't really work. And then Smith Rowe didn't get a sniff. Surely he's fit enough. If he's fit enough to be on the bench, he's fit enough to play. So what's the deal? What's going on there? But it was a really, in my mind, Fabio Vieira hasn't had the best season. It's an introductory season where some people don't need it, but he does. And then you've got Smith Rowe, who can actually do some damage and probably go on that left and cause mayhem. And he kept him on the bench. I just don't get it, Lauren.
I don't either. I think every game we've watched Vieira play, he's started, and in those games we say, yeah, he needed a bit of time to warm up and get into the game, and maybe he had he had a good few passes after that, and he kind of grew into the game. That is not what you need from an impact sub. You need someone who comes on and makes a difference. And yeah, we saw it time and time again with Smith Rowe last season. I don't know what it is anymore. I really don't know what it is. It's the kind of game, if you're going to take those risks at the back, playing three players out of position, play Smith Rowe. He's proven time and time again last season that he can score goals. It was a bit surprising to me, for sure. I don't know what that is about. I really was lost for words. It was weird substitutions. Again, Jay mentioned they came on too late. I think there was only 3 made in total. You could have ransacked the whole starting 11, put on 5 different players. Again, would that have made it any better, any worse? I'm not sure. Too much change probably isn't great either. But what did we have to lose in that position? We really had nothing to lose there, rather than going out and saying, okay, we tried something new, it didn't work. Here we go. Let's try something else.
The thing is, it's not the time of the season to start experimenting. He can do that in his pre-season matches. It's just
Lost you, mate. Lost you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, are we there?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, it's you can't start tinkering. Yeah. Yeah, it's getting towards the end of the season. That's why everything's breaking down and falling apart. I'll have to patch it up while we're off air. Yeah, you can't start tinkering about at that late stage of the season, hoping it will work. And it was just a mismatch. And if I was Jay, ESR or Tierney, I'd be knocking on his office door with demanding a hobnob and a cup of tea with my sort of transfer request in hand. I think it would be fair enough, wouldn't it? You couldn't blame those two for going.
No, I think there's a real chance that they might go. I think Tierney is practically gone, and I think Smith Rowe needs to ask the question for sure. Like where Mikel sees him, where his place is in the squad, what position he is, or what position he's going to go for. Because to bring on, like you say, Vieira, who's about 3 foot tall, weighs about 2 stone. Forest they're a big physical side. Smith Rowe was surely the better option, but I wouldn't be surprised. I don't want to see either of them go because we're going to need them both. I'd like to have them next season because we're going to need them, but I think there's a real chance that they both could go. I think Mikel's lost faith in both. I think Tierney hasn't played at all, has he, this season? And even in this last few weeks where things have gone wrong, he hasn't really figured. So yeah, I think there's a real chance they can both go.
Right then, let's get on to the Zenith player of the match. My player of the match didn't actually have an Arsenal shirt on. It was Gibbs White. I thought he was amazing. I thought he was phenomenal. Great player, and he threatened us every time we went forward. It's something to see.
He's a good player, Gibbs White.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you wouldn't mind him, would you? Yeah, I mean, he was just dynamic all across the pitch. Right, let's just do the stats then. We'll do Forest first. 6 shots. This is where it gets funny because the stats, they can pull a game all over the place. 6 shots for Forest, 11 for Arsenal.
What?
11.
Never.
Did you blink?
Never did I see 11 shots from our team.
2 shots on target, 3 for us, 18% possession for them, 82% for us, 161 passes for Forest, 7-2-4 for Arsenal.
You can believe it.
it's like Walt Disney, isn't it? And 49% pass accuracy for them, 88% for us. Now, Sky tried to bust the myth about William Saliba going missing. I don't know whether you saw it. It was quite interesting, and it doesn't quite stack up in places. But they're saying about us conceding goals at the average of about 2 goals per match. Now, before the World Cup, we played 14 games with Saliba, and goals conceded were 11. We were in first place for that. After the World Cup, 13 games, and we conceded 14 goals. There was a drop-off. We went to 10th. And without Saliba, we had 9 games, 17 goals conceded, and dropped to 12th. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm not really sure what that proves, but it was just an interesting one, because you can see that everyone was kind of saying, oh, Saliba this and Saliba that, and if we had Saliba, but there was kind of obviously another drop after the World Cup without him. So is it time that we looked into a new centre-back pairing? Some people have been suggesting that. Or would Tomiyasu, Lauren, have been the answer to shore things up? Because we could have used him on the right, not Thomas Partey, obviously, because that was a big mistake. Or we could have used him in the centre. And I mean, when he's fit, he's an aggressive, get in there player, and I like that.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, the turning point really was Saliba's injury, and you can phrase it any way you want, but it exposed I suppose, the lack of strength within our squad. It, to a certain extent, it prevented us from attacking, playing the type of football that we want to play as well. You did not see Ben White on the overlap as much because he had to stay back and support Holding or whoever it was there. Absolutely not. If Saliba and Gabriel had have stayed fit and stay fit next season, there's no doubt in my mind that they are more than capable of being the best centre-back pairing in Europe. Hands down. They've shown they're so young. They have a great understanding when they play together. They are a pretty mean force to come up against if you're a striker. I'd be intimidated by those two. And then, you know, if we strengthen at right back, if Tomiyasu stays fit and we can keep him, fantastic. But I just think 2 seasons now, he's been injured at the latter end of the season. Is that good enough? In my mind, probably not, because we've seen Ben White get tired and we've seen, you know, lack of squad depth. It all comes down to this. Do we need another centre-back pairing? I mean, we probably need more strength in that position. However, I think the priority,
who can do dual roles again, don't we?
Yeah, but I think if we manage to strengthen the fullback positions, you know, get another left back in, get another right back in, then we have the flexibility to use Ben White in a more, you know, flexible role. He can come in, come out. But I wouldn't be worrying too much. I think, you know, if when we're talking about safe starters and I suppose the building blocks of the team that we want to retain when we go. I mean, the biggest issue for everyone right now is whether Saliba signs or not. For me, that is, I don't really care who we get over the summer. It's whether we can keep Saliba. That for me is the big, you know, I suppose the I don't know what the word is, but it's what next season hangs on and what the progression of this team looks like. If we can't keep him, then I think, you know, it raises a lot more questions about whether Arteta can attract these big players, whether he can keep the really good young players coming through. But no, I wouldn't say that it's a position that we have to worry about too much. I'd be more focused on the fullbacks and what we can do to strengthen those positions.
You have to ask these questions, Podders, don't you? It's difficult times. We're going through it. We're being almost menopausal, you know, with our doom and gloom. Tony Adams said Arsenal have had a fantastic season, but have run out of resources and players have lost form. To win titles, you need great backup players. When we won 4 titles, we had players like Martin Keown, who came in to do a job for me, taking all the credit, Tony, I see. Hey, what do we do in the summer? Where are we looking at? We'll get onto the transfer targets in a minute, but midfield, we've pointed out there's some work to do there. Do we get a striker? Because there's talk about if we get Caicedo and Rice, we won't be going for a striker. What do you think, Jay? Where do we need to go? We need defensively, attack, or all of the above?
There's going to be a number of departures as well, so that's going to generate a fair amount of money. You know, kind of expect one of Nketiah or Balogun to be sold.
Who would you choose?
I would sell Nketiah. I think he's more Premier League proven, which means, you know, I think we'll be able to generate a slightly higher transfer fee for him. I agree with Lauren. I think we need to go for a right-sided fullback. So I don't think Tomiyasu, you can't rely on him from a fitness point of view. You know, if he doesn't get injured and if William Saliba doesn't get injured, I think we are going into the final day of the season still in the title race. I'm not saying we'd win the league, but I think we'd be still in the title race because Tomiyasu, you know, it's easy to forget about the job he did on Salah at the start of the season when he brought in out of the cold and Mikel played him there. And, you know, I remember a lot of people before the game were like, oh my God, Mikel's he's having a moment. But he came in and marked him out of the game. And I think that's what Tomiyasu brings. He's somebody that is a very specific type of defender. He's a man marker. He's physical. I don't think he starts every week, but he's somebody we can't rely on. Saliba, I mean, you pulled up those stats. We're a far better team with him in it. And he's absolute Rolls Royce of a centre half, and he was absolutely superb. I'd like to see a right-sided defender. Definitely one or two midfielders. I mean, Rice and Caicedo will be superb, but if Partey and Xhaka leave, which I don't think will happen, I think we'll keep Partey. I think Caicedo and Rice would be brilliant additions. And I mean, do we need somebody who can deputise for Saka, or do we start playing Vieira there, or do we start bringing in Smith Rowe? You know, because Saka, you know, it's brilliant that he signed this deal, and you know, I couldn't be happier. But he needs some support because he's not going to be able to take this rotational foul in every single game. You know, he's going to need protecting. So maybe
more competitions next year as well. You can't play him in every single one. You've got to find an answer for Saka and Martinelli. Really, we've got Trossard, so that's a good bonus point. But Saka,
I think we're going to see
overplayed.
We're going to see Nketiah or Balogun leave, I think, and I think so. You're looking at about 20 million for one of them. Probably Rob Holding leave, Tierney leave. So you're probably 20 million for both of those together.
That's a nice way of putting it.
And we've got the Champions League money. So
by the way, you know, last week I said Rob Holding 10 million. Well, it was 10 million euro, so that's about 8.5 million in real money. So I thought I'd look that up because it sounded a massive amount for what Rob Holding is. Sorry, Rob.
And we've also got Pepe still knocking about. So he'll obviously leave. So, I'd go for a right-sided defender, a couple of midfielders, striker, new stadium, new manager.
Joining the rebel force, are you? The Imperial Troopers.
Sell them all.
Right, we're going to go back to the WSL briefly before I must tell everyone that earlier on today I annoyed people on Twitter, which I'm very good at, by suggesting that Declan Rice wasn't worth 120 million. But we'll get to that because it's an interesting one. It caused a lot of debate. I got a lot of West Ham supporters give me a lot of crap. But we're back to the WSL. Old fun bags, Emma Hayes. She'll crack a smile and probably her head will fall off or something. A game of two halves, wasn't it, Lauren? It was all then first half, and then in the second half we came back. But let's get to that team. Have you got it in front of you?
I do. I mean, there wasn't that many changes from the Everton game. Obviously, Valti season-ending injury. We've heard that before. So Palova dropped back into midfield with Manum, and we started Katrina Kuhl on the right wing. So it was her forward and Blackstenius up front. But other than that, I mean, we basically had the dinner ladies on the bench and the pitch men on the bench as well. We're getting very, very thin there. But so it was a miracle we could field the 11.
Getting family members now to join, aren't they?
It's getting a bit like that.
See someone's mum and aunt on there.
Honestly, the second last WSL game. So it's honestly look, considering the depths of the squad crisis that we're in, I don't think anyone really went into this game with too much expectations. Chelsea are Chelsea, they're pushing United now for the title. It was going to be tough anyway that we looked at it, and I think that was probably the best team that we could have started, so I was happy with that.
It was an impressive performance, as we said, about injuries and all that sort of thing, and a determined, spirited, fighting sort of mentality. Take note, the men's team, didn't get any of that at Forest. But they dug in deep. We were a bit slack at the back, and Chelsea will always hurt you if you give them the opportunity. 22 minutes in, and a stunning long ball across the defence. It was a peach of a cross. Found Wrighton, who slipped, but found the bottom right corner of the net. It was quite amazing that she did both. Manham had a chance. It wasn't always one-way traffic. And earlier, Blackstenius just took a heavy touch, bearing down on goal. 41 minutes, we'll finish it off. And Eriksson was on the score sheet. Kerr unmarked from a brilliantly flighted free kick. Found Eriksson to knock it in. Caitlin Ford hit the woodwork off her thigh. That was an unusual one. Penalty for handball. And that was a key moment for turning this game around, wasn't it? But Katie McCabe fired wide by a street. I mean, that was an ugly penalty, wasn't it?
I think it's probably the worst penalty I've seen.
Oh, you
this season anyway.
When I was playing, yeah, I think it's still going over Wandsworth. So penalty for handball, wasn't it? Lost my notes here. That's it. Manham hit a wonderful strike to produce a decent save, and Catley went close despite losing. You have to admire this Arsenal side for as I said, the determination and the grit and all the angst they've had to go through, watching all these girls drop down. If we had all our best players, Lauren, I think we might have not just got a draw, because we could have got a draw in this game for sure, but I think we would have done even better than that. We could have actually won. So the class, the chasm, as they were talking about, between the two teams isn't that massive, is it?
No, it wasn't. I think it probably was the wrong starting 11. I think there was a second half change and Catley came on for Cool, who, I mean, she's 19. She came here in the Christmas or the January transfer window. She's very young, very inexperienced. Catley, what's her name? Catley coming on made the big difference. It kind of strengthens us up a bit.
Who do you think you are? Me? I normally fluff the names up.
That was a big change, but I think Chelsea at that stage, they knew that we wouldn't have that much to offer, really. Substitutions were limited. The players couldn't really push that much further, so I think they were happy to sit back and soak up the pressure. I think had that penalty gone in, it would have been a different story, and we could have come away with the 2 points. But I think if we had our full squad fit, there's no reason in my mind that we couldn't have gone all the way in the Champions League, that we couldn't have gone all the way in the WSL. So it's disappointing, but I think the main thing for me this season is the sheer determination that every player has shown. They've all, they've made me so proud to be an Arsenal supporter. Every time they've gone on that pitch, they've shown such grit and determination, and they're so proud to wear the shirt. It's been a different story for the men's game towards the latter end, of course, but you have to. It almost felt like a win coming out of this game, even though we lost 2-0, injury-free, like I said.
It was an enjoyable game. I mean, even though we lost, I enjoyed that game.
Yeah, I mean, look, there was a faint hope if we had have won that we could have gone on to bring it to the very, very last day of the WSL, which is on Saturday, I believe. So, again, that was clutching at straws. It was a great performance. That second half performance, it was so enjoyable. I thought the standard of the game was really, really good. Yeah. Really, really good. I enjoyed it objectively. Obviously it hurt a bit to see Chelsea go 2-0 up and go away with the 3 points. But it's between them and United now on the final day, and we'll see who takes it.
Well, United kind of did us a favour against City, didn't they? Last minute winner. So that was nice to see.
Yeah.
I really didn't favour either team, but you can't have anything else, can you? Who was your Zenith Coins player of the match, Lauren?
It's a tough one, because I think I'm going to have to give it to Catley, because I think when she came on, the whole flavour of the game changed, and I think she just I don't know. Yeah, I'd give it to Catley. I think she's just back from injury as well. But it's a tough one. I think it was a team performance in the second half that that really made everyone walk away proud.
I would have gone for Ford myself. I just maybe I focused too much on her, but for my own obvious reasons. But yeah, she's a superb player, and I kind of missed her in the first one, got her in this one, so it could have been either either, couldn't it? Really. Right, let's go on to my hoo-ha on Twitter of suggesting that Declan Rice wasn't worth 120 million pounds. If we've got a war chest of 200 million, that's what they're kind of talking about. To spend 120 million on one player, I think it's just too much. Is any player worth 120 million, Jay? He's an England international. He's a captain. I understand that. I've got a lot of, he's our captain and all that sort of thing off the Hammers fans, but that's irrelevant.
So the first question was, is Declan Rice worth 120 million? Probably not.
Yeah. No.
Probably. If somebody, if he was offered to us for 120 million and we had the money, I think I'd probably, it's not my money. You know, it's, if you had both either him or Caicedo, and Caicedo was on offer for 70 million or 80, you'd go for Caicedo probably. Rice is a really good player, and he would really improve our midfield. And like I said earlier, I think it's really important that we do sign players of that caliber to really improve the squad, not just from a technical side, but from that belief and that confidence that that signing a player like that brings to the squad. I agree with you. He's probably not worth that, but ultimately, you then said, is any player worth 120 million? Well, you could argue Haarland probably is, you know, and I'm not saying that Rice would have the same impact that Haarland has had, but it's a tough one because nobody really knows how much money we've got. Nobody really knows how much money we generate through sales. And if we do go and sign Rice and we win the league, or if we sign Rice, for example, and he signs for 5 or 6 years, 120 million over 6 years, and we're successful in that period, it's not, you know, for me, it's an absolute no-brainer, you know. So I suppose it's based on longevity of his career and if we actually win anything. But he can't be the only one, and I can see that's your point. I can see that's what you're getting at, you know, like he can't be the only one, or, you know, we need 3 or 4 players, not just 1 or 2. But I think by all accounts he wants to sign for us. He'd be a brilliant signing. I agree with you though. I don't think he is worth 120. But so, what would you say he was worth? Where would you put him? Because transfers
somewhere between 50 million and 60 million with bolt-ons. But when you look, Haarland officially, Podders, this is what we were told, but they've got good accountants. 51.2 million.
I don't think that's a. So if I get this right, I think Haarland has a release clause, doesn't he?
Yeah. The
same as he had at Dortmund, where he signed on based on the fact that he would determine his own release clause. It's something like that, where they got him a bit cheaper based on the fact that he's got this, I think it's I think it's in and around 150, 160 million pound transfer release clause, where in a few years' time he'll probably leave. But I don't think you can really compare those two transfers. When you think players like Richarlison went for 75 million or whatever it was, and he's been rotten, you know, players like Anthony, you know, 90 million, whatever he was. And obviously he comes with an English tax, doesn't he? But I'd probably put him around 75. But we're gonna have to pay over the odds, aren't we? But if we've got the money, we should do it.
Wenger said it's the English tax, didn't he?
Yeah, we should definitely do it. I would break the bank for it.
I think we've touched on this before, Jay, and I'll pass this to Lauren as well to get her opinion. What about a ceiling, Lauren, on transfer fees? Because it's getting ridiculous. I mean, 5 or 6 years down the line, it's going to be 500 million for a player.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, of course, it should be in place, but you're going to have the likes of Chelsea, who do these crazy things with their contracts where they sign a player for 800 million, but it's over the course of, the rest of their lifetime. So they only pay like 65 euro, whatever. I don't know what, and I mean, City, there's ways around this. City and their financial breaches, whatever. You can all fine and well. You can say, look, you can't spend more than this. You can't spend more than you're generating from whatever sales, that's the other. It's never going to work. It's never going to work. They're going to find ways around it. People are going to exploit it. In theory, yes, all well and good, but is it ever actually going to be brought into practice? I really don't believe it is. I really don't believe it is. So there's no point in bringing something in and preventing smaller teams from spending over what they can generate, or however. I mean, it's the only way that they could do it, I think, that's reasonable, is saying, look, you can't spend more than you bring in. But then that's probably worse off for the smaller teams who aren't generating the same ticket sales or merch sales or whatever, sponsorship, whatever it is. So yeah, I wouldn't be too fond on that unless it was a proper thing that they implemented. But are they ever going to do that? I don't think so.
Well, it's kind of worrying from the point of view, you've got the haves and the have-nots in the Premier League, and the gap is getting worse. And, if it goes unchecked and you've got 3 or 4 clubs going for these top quality players, what you could wind up with is a reduced league, probably like 10 teams in the league, or head down the Super League avenue because no one else can keep up and there's no point. And you kind of drop down the pyramid.
I think the other side of that argument is a club like Brighton, who just keep plucking these players like almost superstars season in, season out, 4 or 5 of them, and I mean that's what all clubs are striving for, right? To find, we've got Martinelli for 6 million, and you'd value him. He must be towards 100 million now, right? Yeah. Saka came through Haarland. We've got a number of players like that. But Brighton is the opposite, isn't it? They're the team who's just plucking these players season in, season out, and they're making huge profits. It was Leicester a few years ago, wasn't it, where they were the ones getting your Kantes and your Mahrez and your players like that. So I suppose that's what everybody's striving for, right?
Well, we've got all these players we're linked with, but nothing solid. Obviously, Gundogan and Cancelo, we've got those in the mix. Mason Mount, which I'm not too keen on, I've got to be honest. Zubamendi, who's the guy from Palace? Mark Gahey, yeah.
And he's a good player, he is.
And what about Armel Bella Kotchap?
Don't know too much about him.
Yeah, he's quite a good player as well, but he's been linked to us as well. Now, the outgoings, we've got to say they've got to be getting on for, I'm not sure, with this £200 million that we've got as a war chest, supposedly, all the media are going with, we've probably got about £120 million worth of players we've got to offload. So is that coming out of that 200 million? Are we going to get 320 million to spend? That would be more attractive, Mr. Kroenke. But it all depends on sales, doesn't it? Because if we can't get rid of certain people, it might affect our ability to buy other people, Jay.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, like I said, I don't think there's going to be that much of an issue getting rid of certain players. Like I think, Tierney will have suitors, people who want to Kieran Tierney. I think we'll be able to sell Pepe, not recoup anywhere near what we paid for him, but I think there'll be buyers for him. I think Nketiah will be able to generate a transfer fee. Who else? Obviously, Xhaka's practically gone by all accounts. Rob Holding, I think there'll be clubs in for him if he's looking to move on. Yeah, obviously, I think I'm missing a few words. And then there's Smith Rowe that we spoke about earlier. That I think it's a real crossroads for him, isn't it? This summer, because he, like we were saying earlier, he needs. I'd perfectly understand if he needs to get that assurance from Mikel about where he slots into the squad, but also understand if he left because we haven't seen anything from him, and he'd be able to generate a decent transfer fee as well. So I just want the club more than anything to not release anything about transfer fees. Just keep our cards close to our chest. There's always, in years gone by, too much information has been let out, and then obviously that hampers your chances of signing players. So I'm just hoping not much information comes out in relation to that kind of stuff.
Right, I'm going to give you a hot potato. I like to kind of get towards the end of the podcast and give you something hot. Pep or Ferguson to date, greatest manager of all time. I'm slightly sick of hearing about it. I'm slightly sick of hearing about Pep Guardiola reinventing the wheel and playing this super football that's been done since the 1970s. Brazil side in particular, Jairzinho, Tostao, Pele, Rivellino. That was a good side. Ferguson's side, they were really brilliant sides. Wenger's Invincibles. I mean, it's really absurd. And when you look at the figures, although I hate to say it, Ferguson has won shitloads and Pep has won shitloads, but he's still got further to go with the Premier League in terms of that. Jay, why do they keep talking about the latest thing? Oh, he's the best player in the Premier League. He's now the best manager. It really annoys me.
Yeah, I mean, there's always
no doubt he's good. I mean,
yeah,
he's very, very good.
I heard, I saw that same comparison, and for me, Ferguson still is levels above Pep. Pep's a brilliant coach, brilliant manager, and I think the only, a massive hope of mine is that Pep decides to call it a day in the summer. Once they win the Champions League, he just decides that he's had enough, because I think that's the only time we're ever going to see or potentially see City drop off, when he leaves, because he is that good. But, Ferguson won trophies at Aberdeen before Ferguson was fashionable, and he did really well, obviously, at Man United. And for me, I despised the bloke as a teenager growing up, and hated him, but he was a great coach, brilliant manager, won trophies in, he created multiple great Man United sides, and for me, he was just a little bit, at the minute anyway. I think it's also like we've spoke about this before, when you compare players currently playing with players that have retired, I think I have a tendency to always favour the players that have retired, whereas I do. Whereas I think, in say 10, 15 years, De Bruyne will be considered probably one of the very best central midfielders, attacking midfielders the league's ever had. Whereas at the moment, I still don't consider him to be up there alongside, the likes of Paul Scholes, for example, or, a few others. So for me, Ferguson still.
What about you, Lauren?
I'd have to agree with that. I think
13 Premier League titles. He's had 2 Champions League and all the other stuff as well. But and I think he won a race at the National with his Grand National with his horse, didn't he? He likes a bit of that old blue nose. But yeah,
I mean, a spanner in the work, of course, is Jose Mourinho. He's after bringing Roma to their second consecutive. There is someone who I think probably deserves a mention. As well. I'm not saying he is, but I just want to throw that out there, okay?
Yeah. No, Mourinho. I think Mourinho. The only issue with him is the majority of the clubs that he's managed at, it's always ended pretty sourly, hasn't it? It's always ended not on great terms. Whereas, but you are dead right. He's won everywhere, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Which is funny. So.
Right, we've got one more hot potato for you, then we'll wrap it up. Talk Sport analyst Andy Goldstein. Is he an analyst? I would have thought he was. Bit of a big head. Has made an astonishing claim that City's Haarland is better than Arsenal icon Thierry Henry. Go away with yourself. Lauren, over to you.
I mean, I don't think you can compare someone who's had one season in the Premier League to probably the greatest player of all time in the Premier League era. So come back to us maybe in a few seasons' time, and then we can discuss. That's how I feel.
I think as well, Jay, is that they're 2 completely different players. I mean, you've got a real target man. He makes things happen. He's very physical. Yet Henry was like an athlete, wasn't he? He was out the traps. He had such a good first touch. His movement was brilliant, and his anticipation was superb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Haarland's come into an absolutely world-class squad, and that can't be ignored. He's got brilliant, absolutely astonishing players around him. Henry came into a good Arsenal side, but we weren't dominating English football like they have and are. And I think that can't be ignored. No comparison to me, not yet. Like Lauren said, he needs longevity. He needs season after season. And I think in about 2 or 3 years, he'll be gone anyway. So, no, Henry every day of the week.
It seems to be talk sports thing, doesn't it? Just wind up Arsenal supporters. Anyway, we've got one more pod to go, and then we've got the end of the season special. Not just looking at Arsenal, but all the other teams as well. And we'll be running down what they did, what they didn't do, how they failed, all that sort of thing. And we'll enjoy that because we've had enough failure. Plus, we'll be dishing out the Mesuts. We're going to come up with a list between us. It'll be the WSL team plus Premier League team of game of the season, most promising player, goal of the season. We'll do that as well. So join us for that. Now, those codes that I promised you earlier on, 20% off the excellent Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, including the lawnmower and the weed whacker. If you don't know what that is, it's the nasal and the ear trimmer. And you get a nice little bag and a comfortable pair of boxer shorts, podders. You go to manscaped.com and put ARS03, that's that. And for 15% off the stunning clock end collectible, which we'll just roll out again. I'll get out of the way. There we go. I think there's 40 left of those, and they come with a little certificate there with the number on as well, the issue number. So you will have to go to zenithcoins.com and use the exclusive promotion code ARS71. Guys, it's been absolutely fascinating hearing all the opinions, and it's been a mixed bag, isn't it? But we go on for the Wolves game. Is anyone brave enough to make a prediction?
I mean, I'm going to say, so I want to see Matt Turner start and goal. I think he deserves a Premier League start this season. Why not? That's my only prediction. That's the only thing I have to say.
I just, you know what I want? I want Arsenal to turn up at home and reward the home and away fans with a performance. I want them to dig deep. I want them to show something, because it's been a shit show. The last 2 games have been horrible to watch. Our bubbles burst. And I know we're all saying it's been a brilliant season for us, which it has in many, many ways. We've got our DNA back. We've got our unity back with the fans and the club and the team. But I just want, for those fans, Jay, you go a lot. I want you rewarded if you go there. You got a ticket for it?
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
Well, they were going for huge amounts. I bet that's a kick in the balls, isn't it? Now, because if we've been in that title race to the last day, they would have been phenomenal prices. But that's what I want to see. Jay, what do you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in absolutely no doubt that the fans will give the players a great send off, and I just hope we can end the season with a win, because I think it would, even though it hasn't ended as we all hoped, I think it would be great to finish it off with a win, and we can go and enjoy the summer.
Plus, the last podcast,
Xhaka's last game as well,
Yeah,
potentially looks like
25 yarder, Lauren.
Why not? Let's go for 35 yards. Why not? Finish with a bang. And a red card for good measure.
Yeah, good old red card. Yeah.
What do you reckon, Lauren? Would you substantially change the side?
I mean, why not? Let's give Smith Rowe a run out. This is a game we've nothing to lose, I don't know. Yeah.
It's bewildering, isn't it? We're all bit because we don't know what to do anymore, and the season's near. Well, it's over, isn't it? It's over. We're just.
I mean, give those players that didn't really get a chance. Let them go. I mean, I'd love to see Reece Nelson start as well. I think he probably deserves a start. He's been quite a vital part of our season. He's made such an impact off the bench when he's come on. Let him start. Give Smith Rowe a shot. And yeah, I would like to see Matt Turner start as well. I think he's probably been a bit unfairly treated on the bench. Probably thought we were going to go a bit further in the cup competitions and stuff. So why not? Let's make it fair for the squad.
Right, just going to tell you, Podders, the Mesut Awards that we're going to hand out, we'd like to do a sort of viewers, listeners award. So who do you think Arsenal's outstanding player was this year? It's an Arsenal thing, 4@gmail.com. Get your votes in. Before the end of the not well, we've got the Wolves game coming up, and then it's the one after that. So it'll be 2 weeks' time. So get your votes in for that. Lauren, been brilliant. Thank you. Enjoy Barcelona and all that fine weather and sangria or whatever you've got down there, whatever the equivalent is. And Jay, enjoy the rest of the week. Don't work too hard. Just
bit of a difference there.
Yeah. Well, it's miserable over here, Laurie. Yeah.
I know.
Right, guys, you take care. I'll see you soon.
See you guys.